Hello, thank you for choosing the session, the three workshops that we're going to be doing on ghosts in your local area. Good choice. I'm Tom Palmer and I'm going to be offering you three workshops about writing. The first is going to be about planning, the second is going to be about starting a story, getting the first words down, and the third is going to be about editing. So they're the three sessions that we're going to do, and we're going to do it around your choice, ghosts in your local area. So ghosts drawn from the history of your local area. So first of all, what I need to do is explain how I write a story. So how I plan a story, and this is particularly, this video is for year sixes in the schools that I'm going to list now. Those schools are Cheam Common Junior Academy, Cheam Fields Primary Academy, Brookfield Primary Academy, Cheam Park Farm Primary Academy, and Manor Park Primary Academy. So you've had a choice of three different stories to work on, and you've chosen this ghost one. Right, so we're going to start. So I've been doing some research. This is about planning and research, this session. I've been doing some research into the Cheam Sutton area. I'm from Yorkshire. I've been to Sutton, to that area, to schools around there, and I have friends who used to live there, who I've visited, and it's a very nice area. And but I didn't know much of the history, but I do now, and I've made a list of some historical things that we could possibly write stories about, because I think if it's local to you, you'll have a feel for it. Is there a building, a monument, a park, some feature, feature on the landscape that means a lot to you in the area where you live, that you could write a ghost story about? So I'll tell you some of the ideas I've come up with, but I've decided, I think I'm going to go with the War Memorial. I've read that there's a War Memorial in Cheam, and I think I'm going to base the story that we plan together around that. But you don't, I'm just going to check you can see the top one. You don't have to choose the one that I choose. You can choose somewhere that means a lot to you, or one of the other ideas that I'll give to you later. But we're going to choose sort of a rough idea for a story, and this is how I would do it. So we've got an idea. We've got, in fact, we can rub out local history ghost, and we can put Cheam War Memorial. Now, this is how I do every story I write. When I'm doing a story, I will start with this. I'm not just making it up for teaching purposes. It's what I do. So you will, you'll see that there's who, where, when, why, how, what. If I answer those questions on these cards, I will be able to start to put a story together. So we'll start with a spider diagram like this, but then we'll move it into a linear shape where we put ideas for the story using these cards and put them in a different order to make a sort of plan for a story. This is how I do it, and I'll try and explain how I do it. But remember, like this story we're doing now about the War Memorial, you don't have to do that. You could do anything that appeals to you as a ghost story locally, but I'm just giving you some ideas and modelling it for you, I suppose. So, where? The Cheam War Memorial. So if I fill these in, I can go from like, I've not done any preparation on, I've not done any preparation on this, so I'm doing it, I'm showing you, so I will make mistakes, and that's good because you'll see that you have to make mistakes to get better at stuff. So where? Cheam War Memorial. I don't know much about that, but you can fill in the gaps for me. And when are we going to set this? So I suppose we're going to set it, we could set it, if I was going to set it, I'd set it now, one of you. So let's say summer 2020, one of you is walking past Cheam War Memorial and you see a ghost. I suppose that's the what, isn't it? What? So actually no, let's stop there. Let's do who first. So we're gonna have, we've got two who's. We've got the ghost, and presumably the ghost is going to be of a soldier, or is it? Should we because that's what you'd expect if you saw a ghost at a war memorial. Maybe it's a ghost of perhaps a young lady, a young woman. Let's say that. So it's a ghost of a young woman. This is a risk. This is a risk because this could go wrong, but we could come up with an interesting original story. If it goes wrong, we can just do it again. And if it goes right, great. It's good to take risks, even if it could backfire. So you've got a ghost of a young woman. Let's have one of you. So I'm going to think of a random name. I'm going to look at a book on my shelves over there and choose a name. And it is someone called Peter. So we're going to have a boy from your school. So Peter is year 6. Right. So they're your 2 characters. So Peter from year 6, this summer, goes to the war memorial and sees a ghost of a young woman sitting there. I don't know. We'll come to that. So we've still got what, how, and why. Let's go for what. What happens? He sees her. Maybe he doesn't know she's a ghost. So he sees maybe she's upset. So he says, "Are you okay?" Then what happens? Something spooky has to happen, doesn't it? We could choose. He goes back in time to her time, or she tells the story about why she's there. I don't know. I'm not sure. Let's do these and see if we can come back to that one. Why is she there? I suppose she's looking for a soldier. I'm thinking because we just had Father's Day, let's make it her dad that she's looking for. Who was her dad? And I've had another, right, so now we've got that. Other ideas are starting to come into my head now, so you've got to let your mind sort of flow. So she's looking for her dad, and so I've got some extra cards here, because you always need extra cards. And Peter asks, what was his name? So he asks, what was your dad's name to the what he believes to be a ghost of a woman, and she says the name. So let's come up with another name. So think of an older name. Although a lot of people are called this now, aren't they? Arthur Sutton, let's say. And then he looks like you've got names on the memorials, and you see the names of all the soldiers from your local area who've died. And how does he tell her that the name is there? So does he tell her or doesn't he tell her? So Peter's there with the ghost of the woman who's lost her father. Does he tell her that his name is on that monument or not? So he has to decide. I'm going to say that he does tell her. So Peter shows name, and what does she do? She disappears. I don't know. This isn't working brilliantly, but this is an example. This is an example, and I don't think this one's working as well, but you can learn from my mistakes. Because I make plenty of mistakes. So let's see. Let's go through it and see if it works. And then we could add new bits to it to help make it work better. Peter is a year 6 boy, and he sees the ghost of a young woman at the war memorial. Maybe people see her all the time. Maybe it's famous. People see her maybe it's a certain date. What date is it? Today it's the 23rd of June. So every 23rd of June people see her. And today he sees her. What does he do? He sees her and he says, "Are you okay?" And she says she's lost her father. She doesn't know where her dad is. he asks her the father's name because he's thinking she's a ghost, and we'll come to fear and that in a bit. And he says, she says Arthur Sutton, and then Peter shows her the name, and she disappears. And then maybe he waits for the next 23rd of June. Will she appear? And it could be better, couldn't it? But that's the best I can come up with under pressure. Because making up stories is not easy. I write stories. I've written 50 books, but it's not easy. Things go wrong, and you've just got to learn from mistakes and know that even though you've written 50 books, you're still going to come up with a story which might not cut it. But I'm sure you can do better than me. So that could be. So there we've got a rough answers to those questions. The next stage we need to do is we need to turn it from this spider diagram, which is like lots of things all poking into the same central point. We need to turn it into a linear story, which is where you've got things in order. This happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens. And that's a linear story, and that's what we're used to reading stories like. So we're now going to do that. But before we do that, I wanted to suggest some other ideas from you. You can look at your history. You might know about the history of Sutton and Cheam, the area. But I've discovered that there is an old Roman road runs through it. And there used to be a Roman villa. So you would have had Roman soldiers marching possibly to Southampton or the south coast, certainly. I would imagine. So that's a possibility. So Roman soldiers, one of you could wake up if you live on that road, which is, I think I know what road it is actually, just a minute. I know I've erased it. Whichever road around where you live used to be the Roman road. One of you could wake up one middle of the night and see Roman soldiers marching up and down it, and that could be the start of a ghost story. You've got Nonsuch Palace, which is now Nonsuch Mansion, which used to be, is that how you pronounce it? Anyway, used to be as a palace that Henry VIII built, so you could have the ghost of Henry VIII turns up in one of your schools or something like that. He's quite a significant historical figure. You've got the War Memorial, and I also found out that in the 18th century, that's 17 whatever, you would have had quite a lot of highwaymen on the roads around your area, because there was quite a proliferation of highwaymen. So you could do a story about the Romans, about highwaymen, about Henry VIII, or about the First World War. There's a lot of history where you live. You just have to choose which one you're most interested in, which building or place or whatever in your area you're most interested in, and try and come up with a story, and try and use that structure of who, where, how, what, when, where, whatever, to develop a story. But I'll come to the challenge that I'm going to make to you in a couple of minutes when we finish. So the next stage for me is to turn it from this spider diagram into a linear story. So I'm going to rub out all of this, and we're going to put it into order, and let's see if these cards, which don't seem, well, they're related, but there's not a plot. They're ideas that are related, but there isn't a exciting, and then this happened, then this happened, then this happened. So we need to create a linear story, but because we've got the cards, we might have enough to make a story. So Peter, hang on. Oops, let's split that in two. Peter from year 6. Can you see that one? Let's bring it down a bit. Peter from year 6, I've just heard. I think my cat's in this room. Anyway, so Peter from year 6 is walking past Cheam War Memorial, and it's summer 2020. Do you see how you can use the who and the what and the where and start to create a story? So you've got that. He sees, here she is, I thought I'd lost her, she keeps disappearing. A ghost, he sees a young woman. Let's not say it's a ghost yet. Let's create the ghost fear moment. So I've done one that says ghost fear. So we'll put that in a bit later. In fact, I'll stick it at the bottom so I don't forget it. So he sees a young woman. He sees her and he asks, "Are you okay?" Oh, I'll put it there. we're going to have quite a lot. I'm just going to put them together there. So you've got a young woman, he sees her and he says, are you okay? Because she looks distressed. She says, she says she's looking for her dad, who was a soldier. Peter asks what was her name. She says Arthur Sutton. Peter shows her the name on the memorial and she disappears. We need something else in there, don't we? We need the ghost fear thing. Peter asks what was her name. He says Arthur. She says Arthur Sutton. Maybe we shouldn't make it the dad. I think we've got to change it because of the age thing. I think if we say looking for her boyfriend or husband, as you wish. Peter asks what was his name. Arthur Sutton was the boyfriend's name. Then he realises, how can she be the boyfriend to someone who's been dead for 100 years? Then he realises a ghost and he sees signs that she's a ghost. I don't need to tell you what they are, do I? Peter shows the name, she disappears. Peter, trembling, shows the name, she disappears. And then he hears from his gran, maybe. That's the flow, that's the linear flow of it. He hears from his gran that people see her every 23rd of June, and then the next 23rd of June he goes and sits there and wants to see if he can see her again. Right, so that's worked out better than I thought it was gonna, because I think we added in some new things. My first stuff wasn't quite enough, so I put in a new extra bit, changed it from the dad to the boyfriend, and then you realise, oh, she can't be the girlfriend of someone who died 100 years ago, therefore she's a ghost, and then you can make it spooky and creepy. So that's the story. So I'm just going to run through it. And remember, you can do this with your story. You can use this, or you can do your own, or you can use one of the ideas, so the Nonsuch Palace, the Roman Road, or the Highwaymen, if you want to use those as well. So I'll just run you through it and let's see if it works. Peter is a year 6, walks past the Cheyne-War Memorial, summer 2020. He sees a young woman. He sees her and says, are you okay? Because she looks distressed. No, I'm looking for a soldier who was my boyfriend. And Peter says, this isn't good. Maybe actually, I'm going to do the ghost sphere there. That's when he realises she's a ghost, and you swap it with that one. And he says, his voice shaking. He says, what was his name? Arthur Sutton. She says, Peter finds the name Arthur Sutton on the war memorial and says, this is his name here, and then she disappears as a ghost. I think the end needs a bit more, don't you? Anyway, we'll come to that another day. Then he tells his gran about it, and she says, oh yes, that young woman, people see her every year on the 23rd of June, and being as that is today. And then the next year he goes there and waits, and then you can just leave him waiting there at the end of your story, or you could get to see him to see her, or she doesn't show up because now she realises her boyfriend's dead. So that is how, that's not perfect, that needs work, but I think there's something there. So that's my challenge now for you, is to do what I've just done with your idea of a ghost story from your local area. So find a story, something really interesting from history, or related to a place or an event or something, or a part of history which has taken place near where you live. Do the spider diagram and then try and put it into an order. And as you can see, I made a mess of it until I sort of thought it through and redid it. Do that for a bit and see how you get on. I think that's it really. So that's your challenge. Your challenge is to do that in the next session. So your challenge, I'll repeat what your challenge is to come up with something from history and go through the spider diagram and then make a linear flow of what the story is going to be. In the next session that I'm going to do, that you can watch when you've done that, I'm going to help you start your story. So how should a story start? Right in the middle of the action, or in a spooky moment, or something like that. And then in the one after that, we're going to do editing. But until then, thank you for listening. I hope that was useful. And I look forward to developing the story a bit more with you next time. Thank you.